Cleaver and to all of our witnesses for having this discussion today, because y'all, I understand that manufactured housing can be an important tool in our toolkit to help ensure that everyone, no matter their zip code, has a roof over their head. In fact, I've benefited from this. So, see, I grew up in rural Alabama, and I grew up in a home that had no indoor plumbing and no running water. So I remember when my Aunt Pat purchased a manufactured home, and it was the first home that I lived in that had indoor plumbing and running water. But I now live in downtown Atlanta, y'all. And so I represent a district that this just isn't possible. I listen to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and I can tell that this hearing, while it would benefit many of my relatives, many people that I grew up with in rural Alabama, it wouldn't do anything for most of the constituents that I represent in the heart of the city of Atlanta. And because there's simply no place that the people of Atlanta can have a manufactured home. But y'all, they need housing too. Because we have all agreed that affordable housing is a crisis in this country. So my constituents have been quite vocal about this one-size-fits-all solution that is being forced on them, and I'm their voice in Congress, so I have an obligation to speak up on their behalf. They're begging my colleagues to not gut HUD. They're begging my colleagues to not get rid of affordable housing programs, and they're asking for us to do something that will benefit so many Americans that are struggling, to meet them where they are and deal with Trump and his administration's skyrocketing housing costs. Because here's the truth of the matter, y'all. While this combo today would help a small segment of the country, my constituents would be left behind and still struggling. Why else would my Republican colleagues focus this week on kicking people off of health care, raising costs with reckless tariffs, or gutting SNAP benefits for the most vulnerable families? And y'all, this too is personal for me because I benefited from SNAP growing up. Well, it was called food stamps at the time when I grew up in the 80s and 90s. When I was raised by my grandparents. But I wouldn't be here in Congress today serving the people that I represent if the Trump administration and my colleagues had their way with a lot of the policies that we're forcing on the American people today. So, what I know is that we have a job to do. And if my colleagues really care about affordable housing for all Americans, they will work with us to ensure that housing is affordable for the lowest income families. Mr. Boer, this is a very simple question. Don't need all the details and background. My Republican colleagues say they want to make manufactured homes and homes in general cheaper, which is a noble idea. But President Trump is putting tariff taxes on steel and aluminum coming from some of our biggest trade partners like Canada and Mexico. That's the stuff that we build homes with, y'all. Mr. Boer, simple question. Will Trump's tariff taxes make prices for new homes increase or decrease? Increase or decrease, Mr. Boer?
We talked earlier, it's probably
Just increase or decrease, Mr. Boer?
Price increase.
Increase, that's right. Mr. Boer, recent data from home builders shows that Trump's tariff taxes are adding almost $11,000 to the cost of an average home. But the good news is, y'all, is that I actually have solutions to bring costs down. In fact, a few weeks back in a committee markup, I offered an amendment that will increase funding for the Community Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships programs. These programs are lifelines used to help states and local communities to preserve and rehabilitate homes in low-income communities. Unfortunately, my Republican colleagues all voted against it. And President Trump has proposed eliminating these programs entirely. As if an $11,000 tax increase wasn't enough for struggling families, my Republican colleagues, y'all, they just want to keep it going. Mr. Flew, if Republicans got their way and eliminated these programs, what would happen to the average price of affordable housing across the country?
Thank you, Congresswoman. First of all, I'm here in a nonpartisan capacity, but to answer your question, they would soar.
But the facts are the facts, Mr. Flew, and you're right, they would soar. But now, it's not gonna solve everything, y'all. But if Republicans are serious about making manufactured homes part of the solution, which they absolutely should be, we need to make sure that these homes are built to last and insured. Just last year, my district was hit with 2 hurricanes, and I live in Atlanta, y'all. We are not even coastal. There's nothing costlier than a damaged home that can't be repaired. And Mr. Flew, my time is up, but I have more questions for all of our witnesses that I will submit for the record, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.